Good morning. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Birmingham. Whoever you are, whomever you love, wherever you are today, and wherever you are on your spiritual journey, you are welcome here. Today begins our next series over the next few weeks of discussing our UU7 principles. These are not the doctrine of our church, but they are guiding values that we promote in our churches and in our wider world. To all who are here this morning, welcome home.
If you would like to participate or comment on our service, especially during the sharing of joys and sorrows, please use the chat feature in YouTube. We also invite you to send virtual hugs and waves to one another using parentheses around someone's name. After church today, we invite you into our Zoom room for coffee hour, small groups, and meetings. The humanist group will meet today, and on Tuesday, Dr. Andrew Duxbury will continue to discuss a variety of topics on aging. This week, via Zoom at 7 p.m., the topic is questions and answers about end of life. Dr. Duxbury and the attendees will talk about their options available to those who are terminally ill, how individuals and families can and should prepare for the inevitability of death, the impacts of COVID-19 on the various care systems available at the end of life, and how to make sure your wishes are known and honored. If you're interested in joining our church or learning more about us, our next UUCB 101 course is August 23rd and August 30th, virtually after church. If you would like to sign up for either of these opportunities, if you would like to participate in the service, or if you want to join our mailing list, please contact the church office. The prelude prepares us for worship. If you have a chalice with you at home, please light it now and type "lighting my chalice" into the chat feature. All Animal Chalice by Mark Causey. We light this chalice, spark of the original fire of creation, to remind us that we all on this planet, the furred, the feathered, the finned, and the scaled, along with us featherless bipeds, we are all made of the same star stuff and all share a common destiny. We all share the same hopes of a life free from harm and suffering, and the same aspirations of happiness, love, and flourishing. Being able to express our own unique natures and capacities as best we may. We are just that many diverse perspectives from which the whole is seen and experienced. We are inextricably intertwined, interconnected, and interdependent, and it is good. Blessed be. Let us join together in singing the hymn found in your order of service. If you'd like, type "singing together" in the chat.
Our church is supported by those who call our church home and by those who support the efforts of our church to change the world for the better. We share our cash plate every Sunday with organizations whose work reflects UU values to care for marginalized persons, advocate for real and systemic change, defend our environment, and promote justice and equity for all. This month's Share the Plate recipient is Greater Birmingham Ministries' Get Out the Vote campaign. GBM has an ongoing commitment to encourage meaningful civic engagement among low-propensity voters, not only in the voting process, but also in decision-making arenas that affect the lives of their families and communities. This involves consistent outreach to neighborhoods and faith communities, voter education and registration, monitoring of the effects of Alabama's voter photo ID and proof of citizenship requirements, and leadership development among low-income residents of our community. The Get Out the Vote campaign aims to mobilize voters for the November general election. During this time of social distancing and online worship, please know that our church expenses continue. Therefore, we very much appreciate your continuing to pay your pledge or offer a donation by either mailing a check to the church office or by using PayPal or Venmo. Our Venmo account is at UUCBHAM. Please designate whether your offering is for UUCB or GBM Get Out the Vote campaign. Thank you for your generous support of our church and our Share the Plate recipient. May we give in love and in hope.
Using the chat feature in YouTube, by hearing it on your heart, or by speaking it aloud, please give voice to what is on your heart today. Please take a moment to hear a spoken meditation followed by a moment of silence. Today's meditation was written by Reverend Bonnie Vigiard, who is one of our UU ministers who lives with a visual impairment. Spirit of love, we pray for all your people, for people who are blind and cannot see, and for those who can see but are blind to people around them. Spirit, in your mercy, help us touch each other. For people who move slowly because of an accident, illness, or disability, and for those who move too fast to be aware of the world in which we live. Spirit, in your mercy, help us work together. For people who are deaf and cannot hear, and for those who can hear but ignore the cries of others. Spirit, in your mercy, help us respond to each other. For people who learn slowly, for people who learn in different ways, and for people who learn quickly and easily but often choose ignorance. Spirit, in your mercy, help us grow in our wisdom. For people who have chronic illness, for which there is no known cure or relief, and for people who live in unholy fear of developing chronic illness, Spirit, in your mercy, help us and heal us. Blessed be. Will the children please come forward?
Oh, there they are.
What? Mama?
Hello, friends. I hope you have been having a relaxing and enjoyable summer despite the pandemic. We're about to have some video game time. We're going to play one of our favorite video games, Overcooked 2.
Mommy. why does that character have a wheelchair?
Why do you think that character has a wheelchair, Stark?
Because every kid in a wheelchair has to be included. Black Lives Matter.
That's wonderful. You know, when I was a kid, you didn't see kids in wheelchairs around. They went to special schools if they got to go to school at all. They didn't have there were not playgrounds where they could go play. There were not spaces that were easy for them to get to. And so it's really important that we include them in all our spaces, even our digital spaces. So I hope you'll look at the different ways that we include all of our friends, regardless of ability, as we go forth this week. Let us sing our song together.
And now let's sing our principal song together. One, each person is worthwhile, to be kind in all you do. 3, we help each other learn. 4, and search for what is true. 5, all people get a vote. 6, build a just and peaceful world. 7, we take care of the earth. That will bring us back to me and you too.
Today's reading is by Reverend Teresa Soto, one of our UU ministers who lives in a wheelchair, with thanks to Reverend Leela Sinha. To be free, you must embrace the breadth of your own existence without apology, even if they try to take it from you. You must know, not that you can do whatever you want. You are not a kudzu vine, eating entire hillsides for the purpose of feeding your own lush life. You must know instead that inside you are entire universes, milky blue, magenta, and gold, expanding. But to actually be free, you must know and you must fight for the entire universes inside of everyone else. Being free is not a license, but a promise. I remember the first time I saw a child using a wheelchair. It was long ago, and the memory stood out to me because the only people that I knew who were in wheelchairs were the elders at my church. I wondered why this child, this person my age, was using a wheelchair, why they rode a special bus to school, why I never saw them in the cafeteria or even the classroom. I was in elementary school when the Americans with Disabilities Act was passed with bipartisan support of both Congress and President George H.W. Bush. And even I remember the segregation of people with disabilities. What do you remember about life before the Americans with Disabilities Act? July 26, 2020 marked the 30th anniversary of this life-giving law. I remember the complaints by able-bodied people who wanted to find exceptions in the law for their church or their business because accessibility was expensive to implement. People who thought the rest of us were having to pay to accommodate the children of drug users. People who didn't want their children to share classrooms or spaces with those different children. These ableist ideas were a reaction to the ADA in response to a group of people asking to be seen, to be heard, to be able to enter buildings and to use restrooms. Many things most of us take for granted. Thankfully, along the way, I met many folks in my life who challenged my notions of disability. Bjorn, a young man with autism. Samuel and his brother Philip, both with multiple disabilities, who together were the impetus of a creation of a special needs ministry at a former church. My own cousin Eric, who has Down syndrome with other disabilities. My colleague, Reverend Teresa Soto, whose words you heard earlier. And so many others, including those of you here at our church who live with disabilities, whether apparent or invisible. Disability is so much more than the ability to walk, to see, to hear, to communicate. It encompasses chronic pain, mental health, and how we interact in the community. Who in your life has challenged your thoughts about disability? Those who are able-bodied can choose to ignore the challenges folks with disabilities face in our society. But we who are Unitarian Universalists are called to live out our values. Our first principle states, we, as Unitarian Universalists, affirm and promote the inherent worth and dignity of every person. The inherent worth and dignity of every person. I recently read Judith Heumann's autobiography titled Being Human, an unrepentant memoir of a disability rights activist. Judy's story is profound. Sick with polio at 18 months old, she was quadriplegic by age 2. Her parents were advised by their doctor to put her in an institution. But being Holocaust survivors, they absolutely could not imagine sending her away to live somewhere else. They chose to keep her at home, and yet she was not allowed to attend school, despite her parents' many attempts. She was stymied at all coming-of-age moments. In her process to receive her teaching certificate, despite her masterful college transcript, she was examined by a doctor who asked her intimate, inappropriate questions about how she used the restroom and insisted on Judy demonstrating her ability to walk. Judy's resilience is a witness to her amazing capacity as a person. Her impact on society, together with hundreds of other disability rights activists, is impressive. Judy's story is about how we show we believe in the inherent worth and dignity of every person, in asking ourselves, how would we want to be treated? And in acting out our values in the public sphere. The CDC reports that 1 in 4 Americans has a disability which impacts their day-to-day life. That's 61 million Americans. Judy advocates that disability is a natural part of the aging process, and thus, because we acquire disabilities as we age, we should be accommodating so that people can remain in community. Often, as we age, we don't like to refer to these situations as disability or ask for accommodations, because to do so recognizes the aging process and our own mortality. But what if we, the church, looked at accessibility not as an exception to the rule, but as a way of ensuring that all people could participate in community? This pandemic has been a great example of this, as we have shown how using technology to be more accessible allows more people in our UU community to be involved in our church life. Our church has made some amazing strides at being accessible in our physical space too. We have a working elevator, accessible bathrooms, including a bathroom with a changing table for larger children and adults. We have hearing devices for the service and large print order of services. Before the pandemic, we were striving to include cutouts in the arrangement of chairs so that those who use wheelchairs would see that we saved a place for them, not just leaving them in the aisles. This was not an issue raised by folks who need those spaces, but was recognized by others in our beloved community who realized we needed to make space. We also have our challenges. How would we fully include a speaker, a worship associate, or singer who wanted to do so from our pulpit? For several years, we have explored different ways to accommodate children with disabilities into our RE program, an ever-evolving conversation reliant on the specific needs of children as they grow and evolve. Judy begins her book by discussing how normal her childhood was, how her childhood friends. To them, the fact that she was in a wheelchair meant unspoken creativity and ingenuity was brought to every playdate. Every activity her friends did, she did too. When they went roller skating, they would strap roller skates to her feet, and another child would push her wheelchair in circles as if she was spinning. When they played jump rope, she would hold one end of the rope and help others to do the jumping. She played dolls. She went to Girl Scouts. She highlights the idea that if we all could enter into that creative problem-solving space when it comes to inclusive, diverse communities, as children do, we would all be better off. We need to channel that childlike creativity into our congregation and into our world. How do we accommodate those with needs, evolve with dignity? How do we create an opening, listening environment to be aware of changing needs? For those with disabilities, how might we foster an environment where you can share opportunities to help you feel more safe, more welcome, and more included? We also have an obligation to include and advocate for those in our community who need accommodation, especially during local and national elections. As I read Judy's work, in all her conversations with all the presidents that she has met and worked for from Reagan onward, I wondered how she reacted when this president mocked a disabled reporter on live TV. She didn't keep me in mystery. Her last chapter is devoted entirely to the Trump administration. Since taking office, this administration has gone after the Affordable Care Act, literally a lifeline for many folks with disabilities who would not have access to health insurance otherwise. And he appointed Betsy DeVos, who was unfamiliar with the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, also called IDEA, which services 7 million students. Under DeVos's management, 72 policy guidelines explaining the rights of students with disabilities disappeared from federal government websites. The Americans with Disabilities Act pages were removed from the White House website very early on in the administration. And Trump signed an executive order for federal departments to alleviate unnecessary regulatory burdens, which for many was interpreted as not being accommodating to those with disabilities. 61 million Americans deserve equal access to our society. Folks with disabilities still struggle to this day to have equal access in our society and to be treated kindly. Just this week, a video from 2018 surfaced of an 8-year-old with cognitive disabilities who was put into handcuffs by police officers at his school when his substitute teacher could not interact with him. She found him unruly. He was taken to an adult jail. His school's policies and leadership failed him. For the next few weeks, we will be reviewing our Unitarian Universalist principles, our UU values which bring us together into our covenantal community. Our UU values are that starting point by which we do church together, by how we live, by how we work, how we volunteer and enjoy life, by how we vote, by how we care for our wider community. Journey with us as we explore our values each Sunday and as we highlight and promote actions that confirm and show dignity and worth to all people. Go in peace, knowing that you and all around you deserve inherent worth and dignity. Amen.
Please join in our closing hymn found in your order of service.
How could anyone ever tell you were anything less than beautiful? How could anyone ever tell you were less than whole? How could anyone fail to notice that your loving is a miracle? How deeply you're connected to my soul. How could anyone ever tell you were anything less than beautiful? How could anyone ever tell you were less than whole? How could anyone fail to notice that your loving is a miracle? How deeply you're connected to my soul. How could anyone ever tell you were anything less than beautiful? How could anyone ever tell you were less than whole? How could anyone fail to notice that your loving is a miracle? How deeply you're connected to my soul.
May we never rest until every child of earth in every generation is free from all prisons of the mind and of the body and of the spirit, until the earth and the hills and the seas shall dance, and the universe itself resound with the joyful cry, "Behold, I am." May you feel loved and in the heart of our community until we are joyfully reunited in person.
Okay.